Welcome to the Great Basin Fire Potential Briefing for Sunday, June 29th. Over the next few days, we will have an increase in lightning across the Great Basin, but first we'll have hot temperatures. Mainly today, tomorrow will be the hottest days across the Great Basin with very dry conditions. Otherwise, very isolated thunderstorms will develop yet again, similar to yesterday, in parts of the mountains of northeast Utah and even over towards Nevada. Both today and tomorrow, this activity is expected to be very isolated with minimal lightning strikes. However, due to the dryness, we still will likely have new initial attack and could see some issues with some of this lightning. However, the lightning really increases starting Tuesday as moisture moves up from the south. These will be a mix of wet and dry thunderstorms, as we will have some moisture moving up on Tuesday, but with the critical conditions in Utah, these thunderstorms are still expected to not only increase initial attack, but also increase the possibility of large fires. Over the last 24 hours, you can see the very isolated lightning from northeast Nevada over into northeast Utah, and again, very minimal precipitation associated with these thunderstorms. We also had a few lightning strikes on the Sierra front. So expecting similar coverage today, maybe a slight increase in northeast Utah. Yesterday, we had 10 new fires for just over 660 acres and over 1,400 acres of growth on our large fires. You can see from the red circles, generally some smaller fires reported over northern Utah and really scattered around the Great Basin, and a couple of fires that did grow to a couple hundred acres up in western Idaho. Over the last 7 to 14 days, very dry conditions have continued across much of the southern two-thirds of the Great Basin. The only precipitation that has occurred over the last week or two has been up in central Idaho. And you can see from our ERC percentile map that fuels are very critical over the southern two-thirds of the Great Basin, where ERCs are above the 90th or 97th percentile, anywhere south of Interstate 80. Further north, it's kind of a mix. We do have critical conditions in western Wyoming, where we have seen recent large fire, also into parts of Idaho and western Nevada. Looking at some of our ERC charts where we will have some high risk going on this week, you can see down in Utah and southern Utah, we have our ERCs that are at or near maximums for the time of year. And up in western Wyoming, where we will see some lightning return by Tuesday, we are seeing those ERCs above the 80th percentile. Our satellite image from this morning shows generally clear skies, with the exception of some smoky conditions that continue across southern areas of the Great Basin. And looking at our smoke forecast today, that really doesn't change too much over the next couple of days. We will see that smoke spread a little bit further north. Today, our weather pattern, we have high pressure building across the Great Basin into the northwest, giving us our hotter temperatures with weak low pressure off the west coast, which will give us enough instability for those isolated thunderstorms you can see anywhere from northeast Nevada eastward. Our significant fire potential continues with low to moderate risk in most areas. We have no high risk today. Again, that lightning is expected to be fairly isolated. Relative humidity remains in the single digits in the south and teens to 20% up north. You can see from the wind gusts, we don't really have any gusty winds to deal with today, with the exception of far southwest Wyoming. Anything in northeast Utah or northern Nevada are really associated with some gusty outflow winds. As we see these thunderstorms develop, we will see the potential for those gusty outflow winds. Temperatures today will continue to climb with highs in the mid-90s over much of Nevada and Utah, and a little bit cooler up north, but still low 90s in the valleys. You can see from the probability of precipitation, these thunderstorms again will develop in parts of the mountains of northeast Utah and could see a couple strikes in the Sierra or in eastern Nevada, again mostly staying isolated, but would be on the drier side. As we move into Monday, the ridge strengthens across the west, and we still have that low pressure off the west coast, again keeping that instability in place. Still no high risk on our significant fire potential map, but most areas are in the yellow or brown, the low to moderate risk. Relative humidity will continue to drop. We'll see more single digits further north on Monday and more teens in the far north. Wind gusts on Monday, as that low strengthens a bit off the coast, we will see some breezy winds over the southern half of Nevada. Most of these areas have not seen any recent lightning, but it will be important to watch areas of western Nevada that have seen a couple of new lightning strikes and could see some today as those winds pick up. Otherwise, the only issue will be any gusty outflow winds further east. And on Monday, you can see the temperatures continue to remain very hot. We'll see some of our hottest temperatures up north, where Boise will reach almost 100 degrees. So very hot and dry conditions, and again, a very isolated activity. Could see some of those thunderstorms skirting the Oregon-Idaho borders into southwest Idaho. Again, coverage would be very minimal with just a few lightning strikes expected. with the majority of the lightning further west into California and Oregon. On Tuesday, that low continues off the west coast and drifts a little bit further north and closer to the Great Basin, where we have a better chance of pulling more moisture up from the southwest. You can see we do have high risk for parts of the higher elevations of southern Utah as this lightning returns. We are expecting more lightning coverage. Also a mix of wet and dry, so some of these storms will have some moisture with them, but also gusty outflow winds, which will be the main threat for our ongoing incidents and any new starts. Any of this lightning up in Oregon looks like it will remain far enough west of our geographic area to not impact Idaho on Tuesday. Relative humidity, you can see more single digits in Nevada, a little bit higher humidity as that moisture moves up into Utah, but still not high enough really probably initially to make a difference. And you can see from the wind gust map, we will have some breezy south winds across Nevada, but you can see the kind of the large area of outflow wind potential across Utah and then even up into eastern Idaho and western Wyoming, where those thunderstorms are expected to develop. So on Tuesday, still temperatures will be very hot. Some of the hotter temperatures up north. This will be the peak day for Idaho. You can see from the lightning map, we are expecting additional lightning coverage across Utah. Further up north, we'll have to watch some of these areas in central Idaho. They could see some lightning, which could cause an impact as well. 3-day precipitation, you can see any of these thunderstorms pretty much on the lighter side with precipitation. Again, we could see some heavier amounts at times locally in Utah with some of these slower storm motions, but for the most part, these will be a mix of wet and dry thunderstorms and are expected to increase initial attack at a minimum and the potential for new large fires. As we move into Wednesday, a similar pattern. The lightning just continues to spread north and west, so a little bit more high risk on the map for even parts of eastern Nevada, also up into Wyoming. And then by Thursday, we might see a little bit of moisture this will be the third day, so we could see a little bit of brief moderation of our fire potential in parts of Utah, but we will see some drier conditions return. Otherwise, lightning continues up north, so that will be something to watch later in the week. And then we see drier air moving in nearly region-wide, so at least temporarily, so we will see more of a return to moderate significant fire potential. Also later in the week is where zephyr winds start to pick up on the Sierra front, so that will be something to watch, especially if we have any new lightning activity. And then on Saturday, another low moves into the northwest, so we will see a return of some showers and thunderstorms to the north. 7-day total precipitation, not much different than the 3-day, maybe a little bit more moisture, also seeing some up into Idaho. The 8 to 14-day outlook, taking us from July 6th through the 12th, shows still generally above normal temperatures for much of the region and near normal precipitation with the exception of some above normal down south. So we'll see how this moisture from any monsoon activity starts to push north, but otherwise we're still looking at drier conditions as you go north and west. That concludes our webcast for today. Check back tomorrow for the latest updates.